Arnaud. Great to see you.
Hi, Nina.
Hi. So today I'm going to be talking to Arnaud Delorme, and he recently wrote this book, Why Our Minds Wander. And I want to get into the research that you're doing right now and what's most exciting you about that research. So tell me a little bit about what you've been up to.
So the one I'm most excited about right now, it's a collaboration that we're doing with the MD Anderson Cancer Center in Texas, which is the number one cancer center in the country. And we're doing this study on healer and mice. So over the past 20 years, there was a study that showed that a healer could heal mice at the distance, if it could heal cancer. So there's been some follow-up, but I believe this is the most rigorous one that's ever been done. It's financed by the Emerald Gate Foundation, and we're happy to be part of it.
Can you say a little bit more about the
Sure.
healing at a distance? Just want to share a little bit more with people about that.
Yeah. So the healer sits in front of mice, they're lab mice, and then they've been inoculated with cancer, and he tries to heal them. And we're recording the brainwave of the healer. And for the first time, I don't think it's ever been done before, but the brainwave of all the mice is trying to heal synchronously. And yeah, so we're very excited. We're in charge of analyzing the EEG data. As you might know, that's my expertise, brainwave
Yes.
analysis, meditation, transcendental states, and now healer and mice. So we're very excited. We're going to look at the synchronization of the mice brain and the healer brain, as well as whether there's an effect on the cancer, of course.
So you're tracking both the brainwaves of the healers and what's happening with the mice in the study.
That's right. And it's technically challenging because we're tracking in real time with 1,000th of a second precision. So we need to perfectly synchronize, the recording of the brainwave. This way, there is a brainwave, in the human. We can see, whether the same brainwave is present in the mice as well, with very fine time accuracy. So that's one challenging part of the project, which was successful because the healer is healing 4 mice at the same time. So we're recording the EEG of all the mice plus the healer, and we're not only going to look at the synchronization, potential synchronization of the brain of the healer with the mice, but also the mice between themselves. It might be, when there's a healing going on, the mice act differently, and it's never been done. I don't think this type of experiment has ever been done. So that's why it's so exciting.
Yeah.
And of course, it's in a clinical setting, so we have control conditions, etc.
So I'm gonna I have some questions, but I also just want to say, can you just say what the name of the study is? Either the nickname or the actual name of the study and where you're at in the process?
Yeah, so we call it the Biofield study. It's done. It took a year, mostly because we wanted to, be able to do proper statistics.
Right.
So there were 60 healing sessions. So we
Okay.
can't just do one because, it's like something happens, could just be, oh, well, just chance.
Yep.
So there were 16 healing sessions on, 4 mice at the same time,
That's a
240 mice.
lot.
Yeah.
Right.
These papers they're there forever afterwards. So we spend extreme care, to how to analyze the data.
Yeah. Okay. And can you say again, I want just to remind people, so you're in partnership with.
So we're in partnership with the MD Anderson Cancer Center,
Mhm.
Texas, and this study is financed by the Emerald Gate Foundation.
Can you speak to what the hypothesis was of this particular study?
Yes, so there's several hypotheses. The main one is obviously whether the healer in that study. There's just one healer, by the way, was trained with that technique.
So
Uh,
one healer for the whole study.
One healer for the whole study.
Hmm.
So it's what we call a case study. Can
Okay.
the healer, heal the mice? You can do a study with many healers, but then they have all different techniques, etc. So for our application, it was better just to take the best of the best. This healer has
Hmm.
purported, healing capacity, and has been doing that for decades. So we took him, and the hypothesis, the first one is he able to heal the mice? So there's control mice as well, who don't receive healing. Does the healing change? And because we have so many healing sessions, we're able to assess that from what we call a statistical perspective.
Hmm.
Even if the healing doesn't happen 100% of the time, does it happen 10% of the time? Does it happen 20% of the time? Does it
Hmm.
happen 0% of the time? Is the question. So that's number one question. Number two question is looking at the synchronization of the brain between the healer and the mice. When the healer, he has also periods where he's not actively healing the mice. He's just turning his back to the mice. We're just behind him, so ignoring the
Yeah.
mice. So these are control period. Does his brain gets more synchronized with the mice when he's just looking at them? Same for the
Interesting.
mice between themselves. um, so these are all our hypotheses. Our hypothesis is that there will be increased brain
Yeah.
synchronization between the healer and the mice.
Okay, so I just want to make sure you feel complete in terms of sharing about the
Yes,
study, the
yes,
details of the study
yes.
before I get to the next question.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for my over enthusiasm. It's just
No,
very.
why are you sorry? This is great. I love the enthusiasm. So my next question is the so what question. So, we have the science arm of ions, and
Mhm.
then we have the experience, which is about, how does this work impact people's lives in a day-to-day way? And so what I would ask to you is, how would you answer the so what question? Why is this important to people?
Yeah, I mean that's the $1 million question. That's the most important question.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a loaded question because
Yeah.
from my perspective, science is the new religion to some extent. Science
Mhm.
is quantum mechanics says that, etc. It's taken as truth.
Right.
Like people take it as truth, which wasn't the case like 200 years ago, or even a little bit more.
Mhm.
So I think it's more, if we can show, that, and science is a method. You can study anything. You can study, healing. You can study near-death experience. You can study whatever you want, as long as the methodology is sound, and the statistics are sound. You can study any topic. So there's
Yep.
no limit of topics. So if we can, do these studies and find some significant results, it could dramatically shift, the way science look at these questions, and also society to some extent. And I think from the skeptical side, oh yeah, it's like it's like you're going to show that telepathy is real, or that the healer process is real, and everything will be invalidated. And that's not the case at all. The laws of physics will still be there. It's just
Right.
might have a small effect of influencing another potential consciousness at the distance that is real as well, and that needs to be taken into account. So that also has consequences for models of consciousness, which is also one of our big interests at IONS. Um,
Right.
and our new CEO really believes in models of consciousness. So yeah, if we can show these effects, we need to build the theory. How is it possible? You know, is it how can one organism influence another one at a distance?
Right.
So the mechanism, it might be based on things we already understand, the process in physics, quantum mechanics, electromagnetism, or it can be based on new processes like, for example, um, the global consciousness. Maybe consciousness is another field that's not been taken into account in physics. So I think we're open as to the mechanism. What's important is also to, work on the data. We're more experimentalist.
Right.
So we work on doing experiments, finding data. And that's also the way, science works hand in hand, experimentalism and theory. I think, most of the breakthrough in science came from experiments, showing, with Newton's and the time it took for, light to reach the moon and, explaining all these phenomena. So, that's why theory. So once we've demonstrated the phenomena, then I think it will have consequence for the models. And I think it's for society, for people in their daily life. It's more, how they approach the world. If science tells them, yes, now there is a program, and maybe it started at IONS, but now, all the universities are studying it, Harvard, Stanford, they have a program on this type of effect on studying consciousness. It's real, it became real. And, now people start like, yeah, well, prayer has been demonstrated to have some effect. And I'm going to pray for other people in my life. Not because I'm religious, because now, I know science has shown that
Right.
it works.
Well, the science validates experience, right?
Yes.
And vice versa. So,
Yes. And
um, I have a question, which is potentially a very loaded question, but I'm just going to ask it. Do you feel, because I've known you for a long time, I've worked with you for a long time, I know you're a very skilled scientist. I wonder what your thoughts are about whether the current scientific paradigm is expansive enough to actually be studying these things in the way that we're studying them. I mean, does it it feels to me a little bit like uh the study of consciousness is it's so it's such a new paradigm, right? And the scientific paradigm is a little bit outdated to some degree. So I'm curious if you feel as a scientist, like what you're able to study what you need to study within the current scientific paradigm.
yeah, I mean, so the scientific paradigm, so science is a method, as I
Right.
mentioned, so we can apply to whatever we want. It's assume repeatability, meaning so I'm going to do an experiment now, and I'm going to show beyond reasonable doubt, that I can um, have, an effect. It doesn't mean it's true. It's just shown
Right.
beyond reasonable doubt. And
Right.
if I do the experiment again, I'm going to get a similar result. I
Right.
think that's what most of science is about. In terms of, yeah, scientists are people, it's like, there's politics and science, and they're not only people, they're extremely, extremely smart, extremely
Right. Right. Yes.
ambitious and smart people. And yeah, there's problems, there's people who are going to put their uh, beliefs like, I don't think that's possible. And
You
but
don't
I
think it's
think a lot
possible to
of
put your beliefs just completely aside?
yeah, I think it's a
Yeah.
minority of scientists. Most scientists I know, I mean, they make a lot of noise, but most scientists I know believe in data.
Yeah.
Show them the data, and okay, well, I think it was real, but I mean, you have the data. What can I say? It's
Mm.
like, then, if they read out, and that's how, that's how I came to study these questions. Is like I was lucky enough that I could analyze the data myself. So I was
Right.
like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
Let me get the data, the actual data that was recorded, and reanalyze it myself from scratch.
Right.
Because I was lucky to have the skill to be able to do that. Most people can't do that, but I could do that, and I was able to convince myself on these, experiments I was working on like 15 years ago, uh, that yeah, this is real.
Yeah.
This some of these, the data is real. Doesn't mean the effect is real, but the data is real, and it's worth to study further.
I think that's a really good distinction, like the effect and the data, right?
Mm.
So, yeah, I think that's a really great distinction. Is there anything else you want to add before we close?
Um, well, thank you for having this short interview so we can
Yeah,
reach out, to
absolutely. Yes. And
community.
so we're going to just add information about the study and Arno in the comments here. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you.